76 wounds. That's what they counted on his body. Bullet holes, bayonet cuts. 76 separate times that Japanese soldiers hit Captain Benjamin Solomon on the morning of July 7, 1944. He kept firing. Here's what makes this story strange. Solomon wasn't supposed to fight at all. He was a dentist. Under the Geneva Convention, he wore a red cross on his arm. He was supposed to save lives, not take them. But when 4,000 Japanese soldiers came screaming out of the darkness toward his medical tent, Solomon made a choice. He picked up a machine gun. He told his 30 wounded patients to run. And then he walked outside, alone, to face an army. By the time the sun rose, 98 Japanese soldiers lay dead in front of his position. But here's what the history books don't tell you. The army denied Solomon the Medal of Honor. Not once. Not twice. 5 times over 58 years. Why? Because a dentist wasn't supposed to kill anyone. This is the story of the man who broke every rule to save his men. And the 58-year fight to give him the recognition he earned in a single morning. If stories about forgotten heroes interest you, I cover a new one every week. Subscribe if that sounds worthwhile. The soldier who became a dentist, Benjamin Solomon, grew up wanting to be a soldier. It didn't work out that way. He graduated from the University of Southern California Dental School in 1937. Good student, steady hands. A future in Beverly Hills fixing teeth. But Solomon wanted more. He tried to join the army, rejected. He applied to the Canadian military, rejected again. So he built a dental practice instead. Wealthy clients, good money. A comfortable life in Los Angeles. Then October 1940 happened. A draft notice showed up at his door. Private Benjamin Solomon reported to the 102nd Infantry Regiment, not as a dentist, but as a regular soldier. Infantry, rifles and mud and training marches. He was good at it. Better than good. Solomon qualified expert with both rifle and pistol. Within a year, the army promoted him to sergeant. They put him in charge of a machine gun section. His commanding officer wrote this about him. The best all-around soldier in the regiment. He was 26 years old. He'd found what he was looking for. Then the War Department ruined it. A letter arrived in August 1942. The army needed dental officers. Solomon had a dental degree. Therefore, Solomon would become a dental officer. He refused. He wanted to stay infantry. He wanted to fight. He wanted to be a soldier. The army made it an order. Lieutenant Benjamin Solomon became a dentist again. He hated every minute of it. Even as the regimental dental officer of the 105th Infantry Regiment, Solomon refused to let go of his infantry identity. He joined every training run. He took part in every fitness competition. He won most of them, 30 years old, competing against frontline infantrymen half his age. Beating them. His men called him the best infantry tactics instructor they'd ever had. A dentist teaching combat soldiers how to fight. He was waiting for his chance. In June 1944, it came. Saipan, the 105th Infantry Regiment, landed on Saipan on June 16, 1944. Combat was immediate. Artillery shells falling within hours of landing. Gunfire constant. Men dying before they could dig foxholes. Solomon had almost nothing to do. Nobody needed dental work when mortars were landing. Nobody wanted their teeth cleaned when machine guns were firing 50 yards away. He waited. He watched men fight and die. He couldn't do anything about it. Then on June 27th, a mortar round wounded the 2nd Battalion surgeon. Solomon volunteered to replace him before the man was off the stretcher. For 2 weeks, he saved lives. Shrapnel wounds, gunshot wounds, burns, men screaming in pain, blood everywhere. He worked 18-hour days in a tent 50 yards behind the forward foxholes, close enough to reach wounded men quickly, far enough back, he thought, to work safely. He was good at it. Better than he expected. He told a friend something during those 2 weeks. He said he wanted to become a medical doctor after the war. He wanted to be the best surgeon that ever lived. By early July, the Japanese were trapped in the northern corner of Saipan. American land, sea, and air power had them surrounded. Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito knew he couldn't win. The Imperial fleet had been destroyed at the Battle of the Philippine Sea 2 weeks earlier. No reinforcements were coming. On July 6th, Saito sent a message to Tokyo. an apology for failing to defend Saipan. Then he gave his final order: every remaining soldier, between 3,000 and 5,000 men, would launch a final attack at dawn. The order was simple: kill 10 Americans before you die. 4:45 a.m. The Americans heard them before they saw them. Screaming, thousands of voices screaming through the darkness. Then shapes appeared, officers leading from the front waving swords overhead, soldiers carrying rifles, some carrying bamboo spears, walking wounded limping forward in the rear ranks, a human wave. The largest banzai charge in Pacific theater history had just torn into the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 105th Infantry Regiment. Solomon's medical tent sat 50 yards behind the forward foxholes. 30 yards from the shoreline, close enough to hear everything, the Japanese found a gap between the two battalions. They poured through it, like water through a crack. Within minutes, they were inside the American perimeter. Forward foxholes collapsed. Soldiers fell back. The wounded stumbled toward Solomon's tent. Some walked, some crawled. Some were carried by friends. 30 wounded men filled the small tent in the first 15 minutes. Blood soaked through the canvas floor. Solomon worked as fast as he could. Bandages, morphine, tourniquets. His hands moved without stopping. He could hear gunfire getting closer, much closer. Then he saw movement at the tent entrance. The fight inside. A Japanese soldier steps inside the tent. Solomon doesn't react yet. He's working on a wounded man. His hands are covered in blood. The soldier walks past him, toward an American lying near the wall. The soldier raises his bayonet. Solomon grabs a rifle leaning against the tent pole. He fires from a squatting position. The Japanese soldier drops. Solomon turns back to his patient, tries to work. 2 more Japanese soldiers appear in the tent entrance. He shoots them both. 4 more soldiers crawl under the tent walls. The first comes at him with a knife. Solomon kicks it out of his hand. The knife skids across the bloody canvas floor. The second raises his rifle. Solomon shoots him in the chest. The third lunges with a bayonet. Solomon grabs his own rifle and drives the bayonet straight through him. The fourth charges. Solomon drops his rifle and headbutts him in the stomach. The soldier doubles over. A wounded American lying on a cot raises his pistol, shoots the Japanese soldier in the head. Solomon looks around. Blood everywhere. 30 wounded men staring at him. The sound of gunfire outside is constant now. Screaming, explosions. The tent walls shake. Japanese voices getting closer. The perimeter is gone. This tent will be overrun in minutes. Every wounded man here will die. Solomon makes his decision. The machine gun. He ordered the wounded to evacuate. Get back to the regimental aid station. Move now. The men who could walk grabbed the men who couldn't. They stumbled toward the rear. Solomon grabbed an M1 Garand rifle from one of the wounded soldiers. 8 rounds in the magazine. He walked out of the tent, alone. The scene outside was chaos. Japanese soldiers everywhere, running, shooting, stabbing. Americans fighting back from scattered positions, foxholes, shell craters. Behind equipment, the defensive line had completely collapsed. Solomon moved forward, fired his rifle. 1 Japanese soldier dropped, fired again. Another fell. He kept moving. He passed wounded Americans crawling toward the rear. He passed dead bodies. American, Japanese. He didn't stop. Ahead of him, he saw it. An M191A1 Browning machine gun, heavy weapon, water-cooled, belt-fed, could fire hundreds of rounds per minute. 4 American soldiers lay dead around it. The gun was still working. Solomon reached the position, checked the weapon, barrel hot but not warped, water jacket intact. About 200 rounds in the belt, maybe more. He grabbed the gun by its handles, dragged it 10 yards forward. Better position, better field of fire. He dragged the bodies of the 4 dead Americans with him, positioned them as cover around the gun. It wasn't respectful. It was necessary. He settled behind the weapon. The Japanese were still coming, wave after wave, some in uniforms, some in rags, some wounded and barely able to walk. They came anyway. Officers with swords, soldiers with rifles, civilians with bamboo spears. They screamed as they charged. Solomon opened fire. 3 hours the Browning roared. 30 caliber rounds tore through the advancing Japanese. Men fell. Solomon held the gun steady. Short bursts, 3 to 5 rounds. Conserve ammunition. Pick targets. Leading soldiers first, officers next. Anyone carrying a weapon, brass casings piled up beside him. The barrel glowed orange in the pre-dawn darkness. The Japanese kept coming. Solomon kept firing. His training as a machine gunner came back immediately. Traverse left, traverse right. Overlapping fields of fire, deny them an approach route. Bodies piled up in front of his position. 10, 20, 30. The attack didn't slow. More Japanese soldiers appeared from the darkness. They climbed over their own dead to reach him. Something hit his leg. He looked down. Blood. He'd been shot. He didn't know when. He kept firing. Another impact. His shoulder. He ignored it. The Browning was everything now. Keep the belt feeding. Keep the barrel cool. Keep firing. Behind him, wounded Americans were still getting away. They needed time. He would give them time. The ammunition belt ran out. Solomon reached for another. His hands were covered in blood. His blood, someone else's. He couldn't tell. He loaded the new belt. The gun jammed. He cleared it. Started firing again. The Japanese were closer now. 20 yards. 15. He could see their faces. Young men, old men, desperate men. He killed them all. Dawn broke over Saipan. The sky turned gray, then pink, then orange. Solomon had been firing for over an hour. His position was surrounded by Japanese dead. 60, maybe 70. He'd lost count. More were coming. His ammunition was running low. He'd been shot multiple times. He could feel his strength fading. The machine gun was his only friend now. As long as it kept firing, he kept living. The sun rose higher. The temperature climbed. Saipan in July was brutal, over 95 degrees by midday. The machine gun barrel glowed white. Water in the cooling jacket boiled. Steam hissed from the vents. Solomon fired in shorter bursts now. The barrel couldn't handle sustained fire anymore. 3 rounds. Pause. 3 rounds. Pause. Each burst dropped another Japanese soldier. Another bullet hit him. His right arm. He switched to firing with his left hand on the trigger. His right hand worked the ammunition belt. Blood ran down both arms. His uniform was soaked, red mixed with sweat. He could taste copper in his mouth. He'd been shot in the face. He didn't remember when. His vision blurred. He blinked it clear. The machine gun kept firing. Behind him, though he couldn't see it, the American line was reforming. Officers were gathering survivors, pulling men back from forward positions, setting up a new defensive perimeter. Artillery was firing now. Heavy shells screamed overhead and exploded in the Japanese rear. The 2nd Marine Division was moving up from reserve. Help was coming, but not yet. Not for another hour, maybe 2. Solomon didn't know any of this. He only knew the Japanese were still coming. He had 2 ammunition belts left. Maybe 300 rounds total. At his current rate of fire, that gave him 10 minutes, maybe 15. Then the gun would be empty. Then he would be dead. The ground shifting. Solomon felt his position shifting. The ground beneath him was unstable. Too much blood. Too many bodies. The machine gun was sinking. He tried to move it. His legs wouldn't work right. He looked down. Both legs bleeding. Multiple wounds. Bullet holes. Bayonet cuts. He couldn't remember taking those hits. The adrenaline had masked everything. Solomon dragged himself and the machine gun to a new position. 5 yards to the right. Better elevation. Clearer field of fire. He left a blood trail behind him. 47 pounds of gun. Wounded body. 5 yards of mud. He set up the gun again. Loaded a fresh belt. Started firing. The Japanese hadn't noticed him moving. They charged the old position. He cut them down from the flank. 20 more fell. The banzai charge was losing momentum. The Japanese had been attacking for 3 hours. Their numbers were thinning. The initial wave of 4,000 had been reduced to hundreds. Then dozens. American artillery was taking a toll. Machine gun fire from other positions was tearing them apart. But it wasn't over. A group of Japanese soldiers spotted Solomon, changed direction, came straight at him. 15 men, maybe 20. Close. 25 yards. 20. Solomon turned the gun and fired directly into them. Point-blank range. Bullets went through multiple bodies. The group fell apart. 3 men still standing. Still coming. He killed 2. The 3rd reached his position. The Japanese soldier jumps over the pile of bodies. Lands in front of the machine gun. He raises his rifle. Bayonet attached, Solomon is out of time. The gun is pointing the wrong direction. He can't turn it fast enough. The soldier lunges. Solomon grabs the barrel of the gun with both hands. It's scalding hot. His skin burns. He swings the entire weapon like a club. 47 pounds of steel and water smashes into the soldier's head. The man drops. Solomon repositions the gun, loads his last ammunition belt. About 150 rounds remaining. The Japanese charge is breaking now. Groups of soldiers retreating back toward their lines. American artillery has found their range. Shells landing among the retreating enemy. But small groups are still probing American positions. Looking for weak points. Looking for ways through. Solomon keeps firing. He will hold this position until the gun runs dry, or he does. He looks at the ammunition belt. 100 rounds left. Maybe 90. He can feel himself getting weaker. The bleeding won't stop. He counts his wounds, the ones he can see. 8. Probably more he can't see. His right lung makes a strange whistling sound. Punctured, his vision is narrowing. Tunnel vision. A sign of blood loss. He has minutes left. Maybe less, but the machine gun still has bullets. And Japanese soldiers are still out there. Solomon keeps his finger on the trigger. As long as one remains, so does the other. By 8 p.m, the banzai charge had spent itself. The Japanese had thrown everything they had at the American lines. Between 3,000 and 5,000 soldiers, infantry, walking wounded, officers, civilians. They were broken now. Scattered groups retreated north toward remaining Japanese positions. American artillery pursued them. Shells landing among the retreating men. Few made it back. The 2nd Battalion counted their losses. Over 400 men killed. Over 500 wounded. 2 entire battalions reduced to scattered survivors. Companies that entered the battle with 150 men could now count 20. Some platoons were gone entirely. The battalion commander ordered a tactical withdrawal, pull back to defensible positions, reorganize, count ammunition, treat the wounded. The survivors fell back toward the beach, moving slowly, exhausted. Many were wounded themselves. They helped each other, dragged the seriously wounded, left the dead where they fell. They would come back for the bodies later. Nobody knew what had happened to Captain Solomon. The last anyone saw him, he was heading toward a machine gun position near the forward line. That position was now deep inside what had been Japanese-held ground, too dangerous to reach. Pockets of Japanese soldiers remained, snipers, holdouts, wounded men with grenades. The 30 wounded soldiers from Solomon's aid station made it back to the regimental medical station. Most survived. They told the medical staff what they saw. Captain Solomon fighting hand-to-hand inside the tent. 4 Japanese soldiers dead at his feet. Him ordering them to evacuate. Him grabbing a rifle and walking out of the tent alone. Nobody knew what happened after that. By noon, the temperature on Saipan reached 95 degrees. The sun beat down on the battlefield. The smell was overwhelming. Thousands of bodies, American, Japanese, baking in tropical heat. Medics moved through the battlefield, checking for survivors. They found few. Most of the wounded from both sides had died hours ago. The Japanese had lost over 4,000 men in the banzai charge, the largest single attack of its kind in the Pacific theater. It had failed. The American lines had bent. They had not broken. By 6 p.m., the Americans had reclaimed all the ground lost during the attack. The Japanese were pushed back to their starting positions and then beyond. As patrols moved through the battlefield, they found machine gun positions. Most had been overrun, gun crews killed, weapons destroyed. Japanese bodies piled around defensive positions, evidence of desperate last stands. Americans who had held their ground and died doing it. One position caught the attention of a patrol from the 27th Division, a Browning machine gun. Still set up, still pointing north, the gun was surrounded by bodies. Japanese bodies, dozens of them. Piled 3 and 4 deep, the patrol approached carefully, checked for survivors, found none. Slumped over the machine gun was an American, a captain. The patrol leader checked for identification. Captain Benjamin L. Solomon, Dental Corps, 2nd Battalion Surgeon. The patrol leader was confused. What was a dentist doing behind a machine gun? They examined the position more carefully. The bodies of 4 American soldiers had been arranged around the gun as cover. A blood trail led from another position 15 yards away. Captain Solomon had moved the gun during the battle. While wounded, the patrol counted the Japanese bodies in front of the position. 40, 50, 60. They kept counting. The number climbed. One of the soldiers noticed something. Captain Solomon's body was covered with wounds. He started counting bullet holes. Bayonet cuts the chest, the arms, the legs, the face, wounds everywhere. This man had been hit dozens of times. How had he kept fighting? The patrol leader called for Captain Edmund G. Love. Love was the 27th Division historian. His job was to document significant events, record heroic actions, gather evidence for awards. When Love arrived at the position, he understood immediately why he'd been called. Love had seen combat. He'd seen brave men die. He'd documented Medal of Honor actions before. He had never seen anything like this. Love walked the perimeter slowly, making notes, taking measurements. The Japanese bodies formed a semicircle in front of the machine gun. The killing zone extended 30 yards forward. Nothing had survived in that arc of fire. Love ordered his team to count the bodies carefully. They started at the closest and worked outward. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. The bodies were stacked in some places. Men had climbed over their own dead to reach the gun. 60, 70, 80. They kept counting. When they finished, they recounted to verify. 98 Japanese soldiers lay dead in front of Captain Solomon's position. Love turned his attention to Solomon's body. He needed to document everything: the position of the body, the condition of the weapon, the nature of the wounds. This was evidence. It would be needed for the official report. Captain Solomon was slumped over the Browning machine gun. His hands were still on the weapon. His finger was near the trigger. He had died fighting. Love began counting the wounds. He started with the most obvious. Bullet holes. He found them in the chest, the abdomen, the arms, the legs. Multiple entry wounds. Some had exit wounds, others didn't. The bullets were still inside. 10 wounds. 15. 20. He moved to the back of the body. More wounds. The shoulders, the spine. Captain Solomon had been shot from multiple directions. Front, side, back. He had continued fighting while surrounded. 30 wounds. 40, 50, 60, 70. When Love finished counting bullet wounds, he had documented 76 separate gunshot injuries. Then Love noticed the bayonet wounds. These were different from gunshots. Puncture marks, slash marks, evidence of close combat. After Solomon had been shot multiple times, after he was likely dying or dead, the Japanese had continued to attack his body. Love counted these wounds separately. He stopped counting after documenting 24 bayonet marks. There were likely more. Love consulted with the battalion medical officer. They examined the wounds together. Their conclusion was disturbing. Based on blood flow patterns and tissue damage, approximately 24 of the wounds had been inflicted while Captain Solomon was still alive. Still conscious, still fighting, the man had been shot and stabbed 24 times, and he had kept firing the machine gun. Love compiled his findings into a detailed report, witness statements, photographs of the position, a sketch map showing the location of bodies, technical analysis of the wounds, estimation of ammunition expended, timeline of events, everything needed for an official recommendation. On July 10, 1944, Brigadier General Ogden J. Ross reviewed Love's report. He read it carefully. Then he read it again. The evidence was overwhelming. Captain Benjamin L. Solomon had performed an action worthy of the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. Ross signed the recommendation, forwarded it to Major General George W. Greiner, commanding general of the 27th Division. The recommendation reached Greiner's desk on July 12th. Greiner read it, studied the evidence, the witness statements, the photograph, the body count. Everything pointed to extraordinary heroism. Then Greiner noticed something in Captain Solomon's service record: dental corps, medical officer, non-combatant status. Greiner consulted the Geneva Convention. Article 24. Medical personnel are protected persons. They may not bear arms against the enemy. Solomon had not only borne arms, he had used a machine gun, a crew-served weapon, an offensive weapon system. Greiner made his decision. He denied the recommendation. His official statement was clear. Captain Solomon wore a Red Cross bracelet on his arm. Under the rules of the Geneva Convention, no medical officer can bear arms against the enemy. Music shifts to something bitter, unresolved. The Medal of Honor recommendation was returned to Captain Love. Denied. No further action. The telegram arrived at the Solomon family home in Los Angeles on July 15, 1944. The War Department regretted to inform them that Captain Benjamin L. Solomon had been killed in action on Saipan. On July 7, the family was devastated. They'd heard stories about their son from other soldiers. The boy who wanted to be a soldier. The dentist who became a hero, but the telegram contained no details about how he died. Captain Love didn't forget about Benjamin Solomon. The denial troubled him. The evidence was overwhelming. The action was clearly worthy of the Medal of Honor, but the Geneva Convention argument had stopped the process. Love filed his report in the division archives, documented everything, kept copies of all witness statements, preserved the photographs. Someday, he thought, someone might reopen this case. The war ended in August 1945. American forces returned home. The 27th Infantry Division was deactivated. Soldiers scattered across the country. Many tried to forget what they'd seen. Some couldn't. In 1951, Captain Love tried again. He was no longer in the military. He was a civilian historian now. But he still had all his documentation from Saipan. He'd kept everything. He submitted a new recommendation through the Office of the Chief of Military History. The recommendation was reviewed, the evidence examined. The conclusion was the same. Captain Solomon's actions were heroic. They met all criteria for the Medal of Honor. But there was a problem, a new problem. The time limit for submitting World War II awards had expired. Congress had established a deadline. That deadline had passed. The recommendation was returned. No action taken. The case was closed. The long fight years passed. The Korean War came and went. The Vietnam War began. A new generation of soldiers fought. New heroes emerged. New medals were awarded. Benjamin Solomon remained forgotten. His family knew he'd died heroically, but they had no official recognition, no medal, no ceremony, just a telegram from 1944. In 1968, Dr. John F. Ingle became Dean of the University of Southern California School of Dentistry, the same school where Benjamin Solomon had graduated in 1937. Ingle was friends with Solomon's father. The old man told him about his son, the dentist who wanted to be a soldier, the hero of Saipan, the Medal of Honor that was denied. Ingle was outraged. He decided to do something about it. Ingle contacted Major General Robert B. Shearer, Chief of the Army Dental Corps, explained the situation, showed him the documentation. Shearer agreed. This was an injustice that needed to be corrected. He began reconstructing the award recommendation. The problem: most records had been lost. The original 1944 recommendation couldn't be found. The 1951 submission had disappeared. Shearer had to start from scratch. He contacted Captain Love. Love still had his copies. He'd kept them for 24 years. Everything was still there. In 1969, a new Medal of Honor recommendation was submitted. It went through proper channels. Each level reviewed and approved. The recommendation reached the Secretary of the Army in 1970. Stanley R. Resor read it, approved it, forwarded it to the Secretary of Defense. The recommendation sat on the desk of the Secretary of Defense. Weeks passed. Months passed. Then it came back. No action taken. No explanation given. Just returned without approval. The case was dead again. Dr. Robert West joined the University of Southern California School of Dentistry faculty in 1992. He learned about Benjamin Solomon, the school's most famous graduate. The hero who was never recognized. West read everything he could find, studied the case, became convinced this was an injustice. In 1998, West decided to try one more time. West wasn't a military historian. He was a dentist, a professor. But he understood something the previous advocates hadn't. Previous attempts had failed because they went through military channels. The military had rejected Solomon 5 times already. West needed a different approach. He needed political pressure. West contacted Congressman Brad Sherman, who represented California's 27th Congressional District. West explained the case, showed him the documentation, the evidence, the witness statements, the photographs from 1944. Sherman was convinced this was a legitimate injustice. He agreed to help. Sherman had power that previous advocates didn't. He was a member of Congress. He could make inquiries that would be taken seriously. West also contacted Major General Patrick D. Scully, the new chief of the Army Dental Corps. Scully reviewed the Solomon case personally, consulted with legal experts about the Geneva Convention issues. The legal interpretation had changed since 1944. Modern understanding of international law allowed medical personnel to use weapons in self-defense, and in defense of their patients. Solomon had been protecting wounded soldiers. That was defensive action, not offensive. Scully threw his full support behind the recommendation. He used his position to push the case through Army channels, together with Sherman's congressional efforts. They created pressure from two directions, military and political. The combination worked. The recommendation went to the Department of the Army, then to the Department of Defense, then to the White House. Each level required review, legal analysis, historical verification. The process took months. West and Sherman pushed at every delay. They would not let the case die again. In 2001, the recommendation reached the desk of President George W. Bush. The president reviewed the case personally. Read Captain Solomon's story. Examined the evidence. 98 enemy soldiers killed. 76 wounds. Died protecting his patients. The president made his decision. The Medal of Honor would be awarded. May 1, 2002, a ceremony was held at the White House. Dr. Robert West attended. He would accept the medal on behalf of the University of Southern California School of Dentistry. Captain Solomon had no surviving immediate family. His parents had died years earlier. The medal would go to his school, to be displayed, to be remembered. President Bush spoke at the ceremony. He described Captain Solomon's actions on Saipan, the banzai charge, the hand-to-hand combat, the machine gun, the 98 enemy soldiers, the 76 wounds. He explained why the medal had been delayed, the Geneva Convention interpretation, the bureaucratic obstacles, the 5 previous denials. The president was clear. This delay was wrong. Captain Solomon had earned this medal in 1944. He should have received it in 1944. The fact that it took 58 years to correct this injustice was shameful. President Bush presented the Medal of Honor to Dr. West. The citation was read aloud. The official description of Captain Solomon's actions, the medical tent under attack, the wounded soldiers evacuated, the machine gun position, the 98 enemy killed, the 76 wounds suffered, the ultimate sacrifice. West accepted the medal. He spoke briefly. He described Benjamin Solomon as a man who wanted to serve his country, who was forced to be a dentist when he wanted to be a soldier, who became both in the end, a healer who killed to save lives, a dentist who died like a warrior. West said the medal would be displayed at the USC School of Dentistry, where students could see it, where they could learn about the man who graduated from their school, who gave everything for his patients. Captain Benjamin L. Solomon became one of only 3 dental officers to receive the Medal of Honor in American military history. He is the only one to receive it for direct combat action, the only dentist who earned it with a machine gun, the only medical officer whose Medal of Honor was delayed for more than half a century. The story of his death became required reading at the Army Medical Department. His actions are studied in military ethics courses. The question is always the same. Did Solomon violate the Geneva Convention, or did he uphold the highest traditions of military medicine? The debate continues, but the medal has been awarded. The question is answered. The mathematics of that morning are simple. Solomon saved 30 lives. He took 98, the arithmetic of war, the calculus of sacrifice. One man decided that his life was worth less than 30 others. He made that decision in seconds. He lived that decision for hours. He died for that decision. Benjamin Solomon wanted to be a soldier. The army made him a dentist. On Saipan, he became both. He healed men with his hands in the morning. He killed the enemy with a machine gun by afternoon. He died doing what he always wanted to do, fighting for his country, protecting his men, being a soldier. The medal sits in a display case at the University of Southern California School of Dentistry today. Students walk past it every day. Most stop to read the plaque. Captain Benjamin L. Solomon, Medal of Honor, Battle of Saipan. July 7, 1944. Some students don't understand at first. A dentist with a Medal of Honor? Then they read the details. 98 enemy killed. 76 wounds. They understand. There's something else in that display case that most people don't notice. A photograph, black and white. Taken before the war, Benjamin Solomon in a suit. Not a uniform, smiling. He looks like any young dentist starting his career. Confident, hopeful, no idea what's coming. He was 29 years old when he died, the same age as many of the students who walk past his medal today. I found one other detail while researching this story. After the war, the Army Medical Department interviewed the 30 wounded soldiers who escaped Solomon's aid station that morning. They wanted to know exactly what happened inside that tent. One soldier, Private First Class Harold Weinstein, said something that stuck with me. He was lying on a cot when Solomon fought those 4 Japanese soldiers with his bare hands. He watched the whole thing. When the interviewer asked what he remembered most, Weinstein didn't talk about the violence. He didn't talk about the blood. He said, the whole time Captain Solomon never raised his voice. He was completely calm, like he was still doing surgery, like saving us was just the next thing to do. That's who Benjamin Solomon was. A dentist who wanted to be a soldier. A healer who became a warrior. A man who faced 4,000 enemy soldiers and treated it like just another problem to solve. 98 dead in front of his gun. 76 wounds on his body. 30 Americans alive because he refused to leave, 8 years late. But his country finally said what needed to be said. Thank you. If stories like this matter to you, the ones about people who deserve to be remembered but almost weren't, I dig into a new one every week. Subscribe if that sounds worthwhile. This is Obscure WWII Chronicles. Until next time.